And guys, episode 2 of Nuss's Notes is finally here. I just want to thank you guys first for checking out episode 1 I did with Jim Brown. Had a lot of positive feedback and way more views, listens than I thought it would. So that was very encouraging and keep it going. Episode 2 here I did with my baseball coach from high school, Chuck Harlow. He's still a baseball coach at Northmont High School. Just recently captured his 700th career win. He's in the top 10 for all-time wins in the state of Ohio history. We talk a little bit of history, a little bit of music, and a ton of baseball. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. And here you go. All right, Coach, thanks for joining me. I'm glad we're doing this after a win.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's good.
That's nice.
6-1 tonight?
6-1 tonight.
Nice. Against Springfield.
Yeah.
Got a ton of baseball, but we're going to start somewhere first because you taught my favorite class I ever took in high school.
Okay.
Biographies class.
Yeah, that was a great class.
It was a great class. The first quarter of the semester class, the first quarter was strictly presidents.
Yes.
In order. And I think there were probably only 42 at the time, 43 presidents.
Yeah.
And then the last half was all just famous people from history. How long did you teach that class?
About 5 years.
Yeah.
And it used to be a quarter class. It was called the presidents and then biographies. Well, then they decided to make it a semester class, and then people had a hard time fitting it into their schedule. It was an elective, and it kind of disappeared because we just didn't have enough people that wanted to take it.
Yeah.
But it was, man, I really enjoyed teaching that. That was great. Kids
Yeah.
were always into it. You always got real motivated kids.
Right.
That was great.
No, I loved it. Off the top of your head, from your perspective, any favorite presidents from history?
Well,
I
like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a lot of strong values, and he was one of my favorites. Without a doubt. Lyndon Johnson did a lot of things. That he was a pretty powerful man. He did a lot of things for civil rights, and so those are probably two of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't Teddy Roosevelt? He got shot and did the speech first, right?
No,
or something. Got that right?
McKinley got shot and killed, and Roosevelt was his vice president.
Okay.
He'd been the governor of New York.
Right.
And he was always mouthing off about everything. He had an opinion about everything.
Right.
And he decided to try to find a spot where he couldn't be, getting in the press every day. And so they made him the vice president, because back then the vice presidents didn't really do anything.
Right.
McKinley gets shot.
He
takes over, and then he wins an election. He promised he wouldn't run for another one. And then Wilson came into power, and then he ran for election again on the Bull Moose Party. He got defeated by Wilson on that. But,
right.
He was definitely one of my favorites.
For sure, trust buster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that class. And you even let us pick our project too. I remember taking Eisenhower and stuff.
Yeah.
And big golfer, Eisenhower.
Yep.
And,
It
was a really cool class. So now we can get to baseball. I had to get that out of the way.
Okay, that's great.
So you went to Northmont, correct?
I did.
What year did you graduate?
75.
Okay, so you didn't overlap with my dad at all, but I think some of his brothers, I think.
Yeah, Dan was a year younger than I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And you played football, I know, right?
Yeah, I was really a football guy, and that's really kind of what I wanted to do. I happened to teach at a school that the head football coach was the head baseball coach. And about 2 weeks into 2 days, he said, "Man, you got to take my reserve team." I said, "No, man, I'm a football guy, And he kept talking to me about it, And then the more he talked to me, I said, "Okay, I'll do it for 1 year." And I did it for a year, and I had so much fun doing it. I said, I'll do it again. And then the third year, he left.
Okay.
And went to Centerville.
So there was an opening.
And so I didn't really want the job, and the AD told me, they really wanted me to take it, and I was like, man, I'm, 24 years old, and I was scared to death, and
right.
I took it, and had a great record of 36-35 after 3 years. And,
okay.
I often wonder how I got the Northmont job with a record like that, but I ended up getting the job, so,
Worked out. But, I mean, I know a lot of people say, I mean, are you ever really ready for that first job, for the first year? And many times you're not. But
you're not, but you get ready real fast.
Yeah.
You get ready real fast. I studied a lot, and I talked to everybody, Miami Valley Baseball Coaches Association, the Ohio High School Coaches Association. I talked to everybody, I heard a lot of clinic speakers, and you do the best you can do, and that's the training in itself, to do that.
Did you find that you were doing a lot of, even though you're a head baseball coach, a lot of non-baseball coach, did that kind of strike you as the stuff behind the scenes, like the fundraising, the field maintenance, the dealing with?
Again, I got to give Terry Dickton the credit for that. He was, like I said, head football coach, head baseball coach. Mm-hmm. He was a great grounds guy. He knew everything in the world about taking care of the field.
Yeah.
He was a pitcher. He knew all kinds of stuff about pitching. I learned a lot from him. And he was the king of fundraising, So I got a good education with him in 2 years,
Yeah.
So that's kind of was my background. And I had so much fun coaching the JV team. And when I went to Northmont, after I'd been the varsity coach for 3 years, I coached freshman football the first 2 years when Ned Boer was there. Mm-hmm. And then Ned left, and we had 3 kids, and I kind of decided that I was going to coach one sport. But
that didn't last, though, did it?
That didn't last very long, I mean, we kind of got in a place where we needed some extra money, and the head girls basketball coach asked me if I coached the 8th grade girls. Again, I told him I'd do that for 1 year, and that one I kept the 1 year deal. But then my freshman coach in baseball got the varsity basketball job, and he asked me to coach the freshman basketball boys.
Okay.
So I did that for 7 years, and then I coached the girls varsity for 7 years. And I said I was going to go to one sport, and then my assistant coach took over as the head girls coach. And 2 years later, he had an opening as a freshman. He said, "Can you do it for a year?" I ended up doing it for 3.
There's a pattern.
Again, my assistant baseball coach, Joe Burglar, got the golf job.
Right.
I was his assistant for 5 years as the JV golf coach, and then a guy named Nathan Hanahan took over, and I have coached with him for the last 5 or 6 years as a JV. So I've pretty much coached 2 sports every single year.
Yeah, did not stick to the one sport rule, but I mean, you love it though, right? I mean,
I do. I've really enjoyed it, and I had this plan. I had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan, and I was bound to determine I was going to be a high school principal, and then I got the baseball job at Northmont and a teaching job, and I loved my teaching job. I mean, I loved it. And after I'd been there 10 years, there was a man there that taught science, and I told him I was thinking about becoming a high school principal. And he said, "You ever looked at our assistant principals?" He goes, "Those dudes are miserable." And so I started watching them, and they weren't very happy, And I thought, I don't know if I want to do that. And then I kept thinking, well, I'll wait another 5 years, And then it went 15 years and 20 years, and I kept going back and renewing my license, and I got to 25, and I said, I don't think I'm ever going to do this, And I'm pretty sure I picked the right career path, So,
right. I feel like it's worked out.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty well.
Just had your 700th win?
Yeah, just had the 700th win.
When I saw that, I reached out to some of your former players for questions, which we'll get to, but I asked one of them who I played with, I'm like, weren't we there for 500? I feel like I graduated in 08. I'm like, 500, that's 210 years. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we've... 700 wins is just a longevity thing, I mean, we've been real fortunate with having number 1, great kids, and number 2, I've had great assistant coaches, and that keeps you coming back, and so I really, I mean, and our community it's a baseball community, for years we had strong little leagues. Now the world of travel, basketball, baseball, soccer, I don't quite get all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think it's the worst thing that ever happened, to tell you the truth, especially for the young kids.
Right.
But our community is, they've had good feeder systems to them, And now it's a little bit different, like I said, with the travel, but that's a whole different topic.
Right. Well, that was my previous podcast with Coach Brown. The biggest thing I took away from it was how he wanted to build with young kids through camps and through the middle school team. And with baseball, there is no middle school baseball.
No, there
so
isn't.
Whatever shows up freshman year is what you have to work with. I mean, has that been an obstacle for you? I know it's a baseball town, so it
hasn't been an obstacle at all, because we've had a lot of good people working with the kids. We had, at one time, we had 2 of the best little leagues around. We had Clayton Hardscrabble, and actually 3. We had the Northmont Amateur Baseball League, and then we had Inglewood Little League. And they all 3 were really well organized, and that was great. And the thing I worry about now with travel baseball is, man, if you're not good by the time you're 10,
right?
You're in trouble. I got a kid that graduated from Northmont, who's at Marietta now. He's hitting home runs left and right. I see him on Twitter. A kid named Michael Hale, and he was a late bloomer, and I always think, man, Mike would have never made it. If it had been today, He's a freshman kid, played the second base for us, and he was like 5'4", and didn't have a hit. He's the entire freshman year. Now he's hitting cleanup for Marietta, and he's hitting, I think he's 7 or 8 home runs this year. So
yeah.
I mean, kids develop at different rates, and,
right?
So
like along with that, I've read some of Malcolm Gladwell's book, and like with these, like, kids go through puberty and develop differently, and even when they're born within the year and the cutoff.
Oh yeah.
If you're late, like if you're a month away from being in another class, you're the youngest, so you're playing with kids who are almost a full year older, and those kids are going to hit better and be higher in the lineup. And
well, you're seeing a lot of kids. I call them getting redshirted. There's a lot of kids that they're starting late. Especially boys.
Right.
Because they want them to get that extra year. The parents do, but
right.
It's up to every parent on what they want to do there.
Mm-hmm. So spring break was 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And there's a Florida trip. Can you just give me the background and history on the Florida trip? I know it's something we always look forward to, but it's certainly been going on for several years and in different places.
Well, I went to Northmont in 1985.
Yeah.
And when I was at Dixie, I had got some material from these places that have these, spring break facilities. And the first year I was at Northmont, I was just trying to keep my head above water.
Right.
The second year, I'd gone in and talked to the administration about taking the kids to Florida, and they looked at me like I was absolutely crazy, and it was a definite no, you cannot.
Strictly financially, or
no,
like
it was like, we're not taking our kids to Florida to play baseball.
Okay.
So I kept trying. I tried again in 1987. I tried, and they were a little bit better about it in 87, and then in 88, I really tried. I had it all planned out. I gave them, everything you could possibly think of.
Right.
And they said, okay, you can go next year. So we started in 1989.
Okay.
And we've gone every year since 1989, except for 2 years where our starting date didn't line up.
Yeah.
And so I think we've gone 28 years to Florida. We used to go to Cocoa, Florida. Now we go up to the Panhandle. Mm-hmm. And it's been a great experience for our kids, and I think it's a great experience for our families. I mean, it's just, we try to have a Northmont baseball family, and it's, it starts building in Florida,
Yeah. No, if you can't bond with your teammates on a long bus ride, let's be honest, and then in the condos and all the bus rides just from the condo to the ball field.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's, if you can't build something there.
Yeah. I mean, it puts us close together. We got the parents working for us. They're doing laundry for us, and they're packing meals for us at the ballpark. They bring us food. And,
wives are cooking breakfast.
All the wives, my wife kind of lines all the food up, and then everybody, makes breakfast for the kids. And, so we got a lot of people working hard, and it's like I said, it's just like it's a family atmosphere,
So, I mean, there were some years, I know when I played, my junior year, we had a couple games before the trip.
Yeah.
And then senior year, the first game was in Florida.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's an obstacle. Do you ever come away with a record in Florida was great, a record in Florida wasn't that great, but we're okay. I mean, not okay with it, but did you take something else?
We've been 1-4. We've been 5-0.
Right.
And like this year we were 2-3, and I don't really sweat our record in Florida. We're down there playing. I mean, people that spend the kind of money you got to spend, they're pretty motivated.
Yeah.
So you play a lot of good teams down there, and you play a lot of Southern schools. We played this team from Alabama. Our last day, he told me they played 17 games. And that was our 5th.
Right.
And we'd only been outside up home like 4 days. Before we went down there.
Yeah.
So and I think 2 of those days or 3 of those days we were on a football field. We were on our field one day.
Yeah.
So. I just look at it as, okay, we got a chance to play in good weather, we got a chance to play good competition, and some years you come back and, like I said, we've had rough trips and we've had good trips. This year we were 2-3, and I thought we played really well 3 of the 5 ball games, and I was pretty happy.
Wasn't the first game like they threw a no-hitter and you threw a one-hitter?
We threw a one-hitter and they threw a no-hitter.
Oh, that's crazy.
And they beat us on a 1st and 3rd, which is kind of our cup of tea, is putting pressure on the other team. And we executed it. We executed it well. Kid just slid underneath the tag, and I was like, well, 1-0. That was it.
Yeah.
I laughed because our game took 1 hour and 16 minutes, and people are always saying baseball takes too long.
Oh, I know.
And I said the answer to that is, if you throw strikes, it's not going to take very long.
Not at all.
If you don't go full count on everybody, if you watch the Reds every night, that's a marathon. Because they're full count on everybody.
Everyone.
So
Right.
You throw strikes and the game goes fast.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
With this year, and you just brought it up, but I know weather has been a factor as far as practice goes. I mean, that can be hard to get through. What are some things I'm sure you've dealt with in the past too, but has there been anything this year? Have your kids been in good spirits about it? Have there been like, we got to go in the gym again?
Well, I mean, it happens to the kids and the coaches. You just can't wait to get outside now. We have a field turf football field. And before track starts, it's great because, it's us and softball down there on the field turf,
Right.
if we can get out there, if we can get out. And, when track starts, I get along with our track coach really good. We kind of work out a deal or we kind of cover where it'd be overthrows. So we try to protect everybody on the track. And
Right.
it's pretty chaotic. And a lot of times we get on that later if we get a chance, if the weather is, but this year the weather wasn't very good.
No.
It's hard, you start out in a gym. But, there's kind of a good thing about that, too, because you start with fundamental stuff, things that you really need to do. And, a lot of times I often think that, if you're in warm weather, I don't know if you'd work on the fundamentals as much, I mean.
That's a good point.
So, there's good and bad. And, I get a kick out of it, though, because we tell those southern teams, we practice in a gym. And they're like, you practice in a gym? You got to be kidding me. How do you do that,
Right.
So
you make it work.
You make it work, it's just, you just make it work.
Yeah. I think back on the baseball season, just when I was playing, it always really hit me on just how short it is. I played three sports, and it's the shortest one, and you don't realize it at first, but your first game is April 1st, say, and your tournament starts May 10th, 13th, and it's very short.
It's a 6-week season.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 6-week season until you get to the tournament. The state has. Just the other day, they added another week on our schedule starting next year. It's going to be a 7-week tournament season. Okay. And it's in the spring it's hectic because you got prom, you got graduation, you got field trips, and it's as hectic as can be.
Yeah.
And trying to keep the kids' mind on it, and you got a lot of seniors on your team. I love seniors because they're older. But the other side of seniors is you got all those distractions.
Yeah.
So
when's the graduation party going to be?
Yep.
All that.
Yep.
So a purely coaching question. I wondered with that small amount of time. Let's say you've got a player and he's not hitting the ball the way he wants to. If you call it a slump, if you want, he's not hitting the ball. How do you, in a short amount of time, once games get started, there's not a lot of practice.
Yeah.
What kind of approach do you take to a kid to get him back on the right track?
It's kind of funny. I call it the Florida funk. We've had a lot of kids that had rough Floridas,
Mm-hmm.
and then they come home and they start, they just keep working at it. I had a player this year. He really struggled. And he was upset. And, we came home and all of a sudden he starts hitting the ball again. You just got to kind of stick with him, and see what happens. The unfortunate part about a short season is, it's like you say, even if you go 0 for 8, in 2 days, someone else gets a look, So that makes it tough, and it also makes it competitive. And I think that competition is a good thing,
Right.
The more kids you have that can take another kid's job, that pushes the kids, and I think you get the most out of them when that happens.
Right. So this next question, to be honest, when I first set this podcast up, this was always the question I wanted to ask, and there was also a question asked by one of your former playmates, Blake Beamer, and we didn't collaborate on it. I asked for questions, he sent it. I'm like, dude, that's the first question I want to ask. You've coached, don't take us the wrong way, you've coached in 4 decades now as a head coach.
Yeah.
How have kids changed, if at all? Is it like a cycle, or have kids, whatever generation?
Well, I'll tell you this. You talk about coaching in 4 decades. It used to be a lot tougher. I think parents used to be a lot tougher on their kids.
Really?
When I first started, that was back in the day where people were, parents would yell, everybody was afraid to get chewed out by their dad, because they'd raise their voice and they'd really, they'd let you have it, That doesn't happen very much these days.
Okay.
Today I just think parents try to be more understanding and more friend-like with their kids. And, there's some good and bad to that,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest change is really how parents parent today.
Okay.
And believe me, I think we got good parents in our baseball program. I hear coaches complain about parents. I like our parents, and I have for years. And I get it, the love is the people love their kids, and love is blind. There's no doubt about that sometimes. But I'd say that's the biggest change is how they're parented. I mean, I know man, when I first started coaching football, and when I came from a high school, that man, I mean, you had to man up real fast, and basically you learn to not let criticism or praise affect you,
Yeah.
And I think that's still a good policy. I think John Wooden said that one time, but don't let criticism or praise stick with you very long.
Yeah.
Because it's it's good and bad, but if it stays with you too long, it can destroy you.
Yeah.
Both ways, on both ends of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool. So something that is different than the 80s is social media. And I know you have I enjoy following you on Twitter. You have a pretty good Twitter presence, and I love that it keeps me up to date with the baseball team. And I mean, obviously from a post-game perspective, but even in the off season and some of the stuff you retweet, I'm sure your players are on social media.
Yeah.
Do you have a social media policy with the players?
Well, we talk to the kids all about social media. We all
Yeah.
talk to them about don't ever put down your teammates. Don't ever put down the opponents. I tell them I have Twitter. I tell the kids that. I tell them I have Facebook, and I use that to get information out about our baseball team.
Yeah.
I have more followers than I follow. I can tell you that. I don't.
That's how you know you're a big deal.
I use it. No, I use it as a tool, and I follow some people too, and I get a kick out of some of the people I follow. But
Yeah.
I just that's something. That's a whole new world, man. Social media,
Yeah.
and I think I've been pretty progressive with it, and I remember, I was sitting at a Van Day and Northmont summer game, and I'm sitting with Trent Dews, Van Dega's coach, and
Yep.
I think a lot of people think Trent Dews and I hate each other, but that's not true. We're sitting there and we're talking about baseball and stuff, and he starts telling me about Twitter, and I say, "What is this thing?" And he put it on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't even know my password
Right.
and stuff. He put it on there
All of a
for
sudden
me,
you're on Twitter.
and all of a sudden I'm on Twitter. My kids put me on Facebook, and so we use them both. And I talk to the kids about what you want to say on there, and I tell them people are watching. I mean, just like employment. Like, man, if you if you're looking for a job, there's going to be people looking at your social
Oh, yeah.
media. So
And it's out there forever. Like, I don't know if you saw the Villanova kid who dropped 30 in the national championship game, and whoever went back 7 years and found a controversial tweet on his Twitter when he was 14.
yeah,
And that just, in a way, it sucks.
Yeah, it does. It's just, it's, I don't know. I like it if you use it in the right ways. And, I talk to the kids about how to use it. And, I think their parents talk to them too, but, they're so advanced. They're one step ahead, Facebook, they always say old people use Facebook, and they're probably right. Young people use Twitter and Snapchat and that stuff,
Yeah.
And Instagram, I've got an Instagram account. I don't use that one very often, but,
Okay.
I just...
It's funny how it's evolved, because
it really is.
I got Facebook junior year, so that's 07, for the same reason every guy in high school had Facebook, because
Sure.
the girls had it.
Sure.
And
sure.
now, it's an older thing where I'm getting friend requests from those girls' parents. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need you to follow me,
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's funny how it works, but it's good that you're educating them. I mean,
Well, you try.
yeah.
You try. I mean, they're kids. They're, you can get everything on the internet now, and
Yeah.
you try to put them in the right direction, but they're always one step ahead of us on social
Yeah.
media stuff.
I'm glad you brought up Coach Dews and Vandalia, because that's a big topic. Vandalia rivalry, I felt it's huge with Northmont Vandalia, period. But I felt like in baseball, maybe it's the way you made it, or just two good teams typically. Can you just talk a little bit about the rivalry?
It used to be such a big rivalry, but now that we're not even in the same divisions anymore.
Yeah, 10 minutes away.
Our kids, I don't think our kids get really fired up for it. I think the Van Day kids still get fired up for it. I don't know. Trent must be, got them drinking the Kool-Aid or something. I don't know. But our kids, it just seems like it's just another game for them. We're more interested in Centerville and Springboro and Lebanon, and because that's who we're playing now. The rivalry. Man, I don't know. I mean, it's a shame, but our rivalries are now the schools we play. We play them in a non-league game, and it's still important to me, and I think it's still important, somewhat to the kids, but it's not the rivalry it used to be. I can tell you that. It used to be a bloodbath between us.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on the schedule. It seems like every year, though.
They are.
Do you have any say in who you get to play?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. We actually schedule. We do our own scheduling for varsity and JV.
Okay.
And Trent and I, we try to do is we always hook up on a Saturday. If you look at what we play on Saturdays, it's kind of the same traditional thing. We play Tip City just about every year.
Right.
We play Van Day now. We used to play Van Day in a league, but now we play them on Saturday. We play CJ. Mike Barhurst is a real good friend of mine. He took him to state last year. We play Piqua, and then we play Fairborn now. Fairborn's got a young coach, and I get the biggest kick out of him. And we've become real good friends, and so we schedule each other on the last Saturday every year.
Okay.
So it's pretty much same people every year on the same Saturdays.
Have you done? I know we did a few times like a 3-team Saturday overlapping doubleheader type.
Yeah, they used to have you could play 27 games on 23 dates.
Okay.
Well, now it's 27 days. You can play 27 games on 27 days. So hardly anybody wants to play doubleheaders anymore.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of cool because if you get rained out a couple times, then you can kind of talk to the other coach, say, "Hey, I want to play 2," and then you play 2.
Yeah.
So it kind of works out nice that way too. But now it's we play more single games on Saturdays than we used to.
Right. Okay. I mean, I like doubleheaders.
I loved them,
yeah.
man. I love doubleheaders, but it's that's kind of something that's faded away.
Right. So it's pretty hard to watch a baseball game on TV now and not hear them talk about analytics and an analytic approach to rosters and batting lineups and rotating pitchers and everything. Are you using any analytics? Have you tweaked? Have you learned anything from clinics or something like that?
You know something, John. I'm not real. The analytics. Here's what I look at. To me, the big thing is run scored and RBIs. Are you a run producer? I look at that.
Yeah.
I look at on-base percentage because in high school baseball, they say a walk is good as a hit. Well, I'd say in high school baseball, sometimes even better. Because it's a crusher to the pitchers when they walk guys.
Yeah.
Now, our guys know they walk 2 guys, they're coming out.
It's pretty much the way it is.
My pitching coach is Mike Birdsall now, and Mike's great. If they see Mike coming out, he's out coming out talking. If they see me coming out, they know.
Yeah.
They know what's
going
to happen.
Yeah.
So, it's just the walk. It kills you. So I look at runs produced, pitchers. I look at innings pitched to hits, and strikeouts to walks.
Yeah.
And that's really what I look at. I don't even know what WAR is.
Right.
OSP, all that stuff. I don't even pay attention to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Batting average. I look at batting average, but on base percentage. I get a kid that gets on base and scores runs. Man, I don't care if they walk, get hit by pitches or whatever.
Exactly.
I went back and looked a couple of years ago. Heard Kentucky's old coach talk. He's the guy that did it. Can't think of his name. He went to Mississippi State. I should know his name. John. Anyways, now he's there at AD. And he talked about what generates a big inning. So I went back and started looking through a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And his thing was hit by pitch was the key ingredient,
Yeah.
And, you look at walks, man, walks seem to be a big indicator of a big inning too.
Yeah.
Anytime you get a crooked number up there, you get 3 or more, you got a chance to win some ball games. You get a couple of them up
For
there.
sure.
Yeah.
I do remember us taking pride in getting hit by a pitch. I mean, you look, the record books online, and there's several people who've been hit more than 10 times in a season.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind.
Yeah, Alex Moat,
Yeah.
and Coach Kurt Coleman, they were constantly getting hit. Blake Beamer got hit all the time.
All the time.
And the thing is, I don't recommend taking a fastball in the middle of the back. I don't think it's that much fun. But we try to teach our kids to keep their feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And, the curveball is where they usually get hit. A guy throws it too far inside, and they roll with the pitch, and they, nicks them.
Right.
And so, it's – I think to have good hitters, you got to keep your feet on the ground. You can't be jumping around.
Sure.
We go down there in Florida and play the Florida teams, and a lot of teams throw high heat. A lot of people throw high, and away from the batter. They throw it low and away from the batter. Well, those guys they get 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
They throw right at your feet. They make you move.
Really?
Yeah, and then they throw you a curveball the next
next
pitch.
one,
And it works pretty doggone good for them.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the World Series the past couple years has been great, and hearing people talk about it, but it's so different. Maybe just Major Leagues, how they talk about batters going up thinking home run or strikeout.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you like?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it's different. I mean, you got to put the ball in play. At least make the defense do something.
You know, when you look at the money those guys are making, you know, there's guys that are paid to hit home runs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how many times they strike out.
Mm-hmm.
That's not our game in high school.
No.
How many times you strike out is a major deficit to your club.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, it's just like I always say, like if we get a pitcher that strikes out 10 guys, we only got to get 11 outs in the field. And our defense is usually pretty good today. We have 10 guys strike out 10 guys.
Right.
You know, so, you know, I mean, in high school baseball and compared to the, you know, professional, it's the same game, but it's not the same game.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. It's different. Like, I'd love to spend a season, a week, or whatever with some of these people talking about advanced stats because it's going to get to a point, I think, where it's too far. Like I heard Tim Kirchin was talking about how like now they're looking at ball speed off the bat when a hitter hits it. And some guy went back and, because of the ball velocity, called Tony Gwynn a lucky hitter.
Yeah.
He batted .338 for a career that went till he was 40 years old.
Yeah, I'll take a lucky hitter
yeah,
any day.
exactly.
Week, you know?
I'm like, come on.
I mean, I hear people talking about exit velo, and I just like chuckle, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know, I mean, I guess for the big guys that's great, but for us, I don't think it's relevant.
No,
you know.
Put the ball in play.
Yeah, I mean, I never had, you know, like, I read Moneyball when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
I was really intrigued. You know, I read that right away, and they didn't really make reference to those young pitchers they had. You know, they had some stud pitchers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know that I don't know. I think you gotta and today they do kind of figure everything in.
Yeah.
But it's not in a 27 game season. You know, a
Right.
27 game season. I don't think it's worth even messing with.
No. So a couple questions from former players. We mentioned Blake Beamer earlier. Another one is, where did "How You Feeling" come from?
When I was in high school, there was a kid on our football team that when I was a senior, and I was a junior, he was a senior. That was his big thing, you know. He would yell, "How you feeling?" Everybody yell, "All right." And
Okay.
I kind of stole it from him.
Yeah.
And you know, that's kind of our war cry, you know, "How you feeling?" You know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's, you know, who's the best, and you know, it's that the answer to that is Northmont, and why hard work, you know, and it's just you know, so I took a lot of football with me to coach baseball.
Sure.
You know.
Nothing wrong with that. Blake also asked, you're asked to give advice to young coaches. I'm sure you'd be several, you know.
I tell you,
advice.
Number one, I got some really good advice for young coaches. I think number one, be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else.
Okay.
Be yourself. Don't copy. I mean, don't. If your football coach is a great guy and he's winning a lot of games, don't do everything he does. Just do things that you do. You know. Now, steal from everybody you can. You know, steal every great idea you can.
Right.
Steal it. I don't care what coach it is. I'll tell you something about that too, about
Sure.
stealing from coaches. But you know, be yourself. And then the second thing is, you got to watch who you take on your team. You know, I heard this at a clinic years ago. You can take one donkey a year, but if you take more than one donkey, you're going to be running a jackass farming next year.
Okay.
You know, so you better watch out who you take. You know, I really look for kids that have character. You know, I look for kids that unity, man, that's big to them. It's, you know, we before me. I really look for the kids like that.
Yeah.
I look for kids that have, you know, courage. So I mean, those are some of the things, you know, I like unity and courage, and I'm always telling the kids, you got to have self-discipline. Do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how it needs to be done. Do it that way all the time. You know, that's a Bobby Knight thing. You know,
right.
And you know, mental toughness. You know, to me, mental toughness is just you can refocus right away. You know, if you pop up, okay, now you got to go play defense. Forget it.
Right.
You know, next pitch. And I'd tell young coaches that. I'd tell them that, you know, be yourself. Be really selective on who you want on your team, and set high standards of who you want.
Okay.
And make them meet that. And then, you know, the last thing is, you know, work with the parents, but don't let parents run you. You know, don't let them run your team. You know.
Yeah.
And you got to work with your administrator, and I've been really fortunate there, man. I've had good administrators to work with. But, I think, those three things: be yourself, be real selective on who you take to be on your team, those kind of things. And be, work with people, and steal every great idea you can find. I don't care if it's the band director or, I am the king of stealing ideas, man. I look at history.
Yeah.
And people say, you don't want to repeat the bad things in history, but man, you want to look at the good things and try to, figure out how those things happen.
For sure.
So,
did you have a story with that, along with that?
Well, I was going to tell you that, since I've been the baseball coach at Northmont, we have had a lot of different football coaches. We've had a lot of different basketball coaches. I mean, probably 2-to-1 basketball coaches to football coaches, but we still have had a lot of football coaches. Mm-hmm. And I've stole things from every one of those people. I used to kind of chuckle about our basketball situation because I learned something from every single basketball coach we had. A lot of those guys got fired, but they all had some good ideas too. You know, and same with the football guys. I learned a lot from the football guys. Mm-hmm. And I like to watch other teams practice. And I try to pay attention to what's going on with other people and see what, I use my own school as a clinic, and got a lot of great ideas from people that work there.
Yeah. Take as much as you can for sure. I was, as a baseball player, played multiple positions. I think I played everything but first pitcher and catcher for you. And there are kids who kind of just play one or two maybe.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference, or do you look at a kid differently if he can only play one or two? I mean, if he's really good, that's his spot, though.
It's funny. Back in the 80s, when I first went to Northmont, their previous coach, Rick Dill, and Rick was ahead of his time, I think. He was ahead of his time, but he had pitcher onlys. POs, man. And I came from Dixie, where, man, my best pitcher was my shortstop.
Right.
It's just everything. You played kids, two ways, and I've always been a two-way guy. A kid pitches 100 pitches one night or 80 pitches one night, he's not going to play shortstop the next day.
Sure.
So I just as far as learning, and I'm big into multiple position players. When I hear a 10-year-old kid tell me he only pitches, kids come to camp, I'm just a pitcher. I'm just like, really?
Get out of here, right? Yeah.
And I just think, man, what are they doing to you, man? I like kids that, like the other day, my backup first baseman. We get in a situation where we empty the bench. We're winning 11-0 at the end of the second inning. We empty the bench.
Okay.
So we end up having to move people around. We end up changing pitchers, and all of a sudden I got 2 first basemen in the game. And I looked at him. I said, "Which one of you guys want to play outfield?" And the one kid said, first baseman says, "I'll do it." He goes out and plays left field for 2 innings. Well, then we end up moving the second baseman into pitching. We didn't have a second baseman. So I said, "All right, which one do you want to do?" That same kid, "I'll do it."
Yeah.
Well, first pitch hit to the shortstop. He's over there and he turns 2.
Just like that.
And I'm thinking that kid, somewhere along the line, that kid played multiple positions, you know. So, and that's something I think that sometimes we as coaches, we want to get so technical with the kids. And I think sometimes you got to let good athletes, good baseball players, just play baseball, I just think you got to let them do that.
Take the reins off a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of learned that in football too. When I coached football, I coached. When I came back and coached for Coach Boer, I thought the world of Coach Boer. And one thing I noticed with him is, man, he was hard on the really good players.
Okay.
But man, he let those athletes be athletes. He didn't overcoach them. He coached them and let them go.
Right.
He coached them, did what he wanted to do, and he let them go. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes people try to overcoach, and I think that's just, you're just wasting your energy by doing that.
Yeah. So as far as placing guys in positions and everything, you've played 4 games this week. How far ahead in the week will you make a lineup? Will you kind of plan as far as pitching rotations? Let's say it's Monday night and you got a game the next 4 days.
Every Saturday or Sunday, the guy that's our pitching coach, and we sit down and kind of talk about the next week.
Yeah.
Who's going to pitch what, and you can have these great plans, and all of a sudden you get rained out, and you're backed up, and you're playing 5 games instead of 3 games during the week.
Yeah.
So my theory is my number one's ready to go. If he's got 3 days, 4 days rest, he's going to go, and then the number 2, you'll go after him. And,
yeah.
And we, right now we've got 3 starters that are pretty good, and we've got a couple guys in the bullpen that are pretty good in the bullpen. And last week, I think it was yesterday, not last week. Kid has been out of the bullpen. He started for us. He went 4 1/3.
Okay.
Just did a great job for us. So, you definitely have an idea, but it changes day to day.
Right.
That's
how the season goes.
Yep.
From Brian Toll, a classmate of mine, memorable games or moments off the top of your head? I'm sure there's several, but any really memorable games?
Well, mentioning Brian Toll, the thing I remember about Toll was, man on first and second, he could lay a bunt down in the panic zone as well as any kid we've ever had.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it was bases loaded, because we moved the runners up and they couldn't throw him out.
Yeah.
But there's been so many memorable games. When you,
Right.
it's
tough. I know.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't list you the top 10. A couple of years ago, and I don't even remember what year it was. It was when Clay and Riemann and Robert Sikowski and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
We play a ball game that was rain delayed, and we get over at like 11 o'clock in Springfield in the tournament, and we've got to play in Cincinnati the next day against St. X at 11 a.m.
Okay.
So I told the kids, be at school at 8. We're going to take BP at school, and then we'll drive down there, and we'll get ready. And we go down the next day, and my kids, they didn't even have time to think about who they were playing. St. X was rated real high, and we go down there and beat St. X the next day.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, we beat Mason a couple years ago. I think in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah, pretty far in the tournament, right?
We beat Mason in the regional, the first game of the regional. They were 26-0, and we beat them. And it was funny because we're trying to steal everything we can from the newspapers and stuff. And the Cincinnati Enquirer, they got all this stuff talking about the Mason Moeller matchup for the next day. Like we were on automatic loss.
Yeah.
And we beat Mason, and then we played the Moeller, and it didn't come out real good on that day. But,
right.
But
if I remember, you jumped on them early, right, Mason?
Yeah, we did. I remember asking Mike. We were going up the hill to UC. I turned around and asked Mike Manson. I said, "Do you think Mason's ever been behind this year?" I said, "I swear, man, if we get a chance to squeeze in the first inning, we're going to try to get a run."
Yeah.
And I said, anything we can do to get a run, we're going to try to manufacture a run in the first inning.
Yeah.
And they kicked it a couple times, and they had such a great team, and they were coached so well, and they made a bunch of errors, and all of a sudden we're up 4-0 in the first.
Right.
So
just like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of memorable or just what it means to you, what's it like coaching your son?
That was a great experience, especially his senior year. His junior year was a little rougher. But his senior year, like I knew all the parents that he'd grown up with. I knew all the kids, and that was good. We never really had a rule about it or anything, but we didn't talk baseball at home.
Okay.
We talked baseball. We talked about the Reds and things like that, but we just really didn't talk about it. I shouldn't say at home. We didn't talk about it in front of our family. When him and I might be out in the backyard or whatever.
Yeah.
And we'd talk about it. We talked about it in the car a lot, but we just kind of left it there. And I remember he always called me coach, and I called him Kyle. I never acted like he was my son or something. I tell you the one thing though, he played first base and he was a pretty daggone fast kid, and he hit 3 triples his senior year.
Yeah.
And to me, the most exciting play in baseball is stealing home and a triple. And, he comes sliding in head first, and I'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
For a second, I had a dad moment, and then I was his coach, But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a pleasurable experience, and, I hope he feels the same way.
Yeah. I'm sure that was his senior year, was my freshman year. So I remember being around there, and
Yeah.
even like, I don't know if it was in the school newspaper, England Independent, like an article about it, and how it surprised you how many triples he had. For people who don't know, he was the starting, like, was he left tackle or right tackle for football?
Yeah, he played center for a while, and he played tackle for a while, and he used to always joke because him and Tyler Horner were good friends, and Tyler was a quarterback, and they'd do that summer conditioning, and Kyle always ran with the backs when they did their summer conditioning. All the other linemen ran together, and they always made him run with the skilled guys.
Right.
And he used to always get on Tyler, but he was faster than Tyler, and that was kind of the running joke. And he probably, they were probably neck and neck, you know. But that was I was a really good experience. The only problem I had when he was a sophomore, we were playing an inter squad game in Florida, and he was like the third right fielder on one of the teams. And we'd made errors with every kid out there, and then he made an error, and I jumped him, and Joe Mergler came down and said, "I coach the outfielders. You just let me coach the outfielders." And I said, okay. And then afterwards he said, "Well, how's it going to be you didn't say anything to those other two kids?" And I said, "Probably because they aren't my kid."
Kyle or Joe said that to you? That's why.
Joe Mergler said that.
Yeah.
My coach said that to me, And he kind of set it straight right there, and I really appreciated it too, so. But I think it was a great experience.
Sure, that's awesome. I saw that you just put like an entire team into your Baseball Hall of Fame, the 1988 team.
Yeah,
right?
Northmont has a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and
I was, football's had a Hall of Fame forever, and I was kind of concerned that some baseball kids might not make the Hall of Fame because there's a lot of multiple sport kids there, and as much as I like multiple sports, there's sometimes you get kids that aren't multiple sports stars, but they're really good in baseball,
Yeah.
And so we started the Hall of Fame, and we've had individuals in the Hall of Fame, all the way through. And then, when this is the 30th anniversary of that team,
right?
The '88 team, and I said, for us, winning a district championship is a big deal. And, making it to the regionals, and I said, that's the first team that did,
Okay.
So we decided to induct them, and man, what a great weekend we had. We had spent some time with a lot of them the night before down at Bolts, and then the induction was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. It was great.
I'm sure they enjoyed it because, how often are they all in the same room,
Yeah, it was great to see them and great to see their parents too, and I really enjoyed that. And the guys really, really enjoyed seeing each other. We had two guys that had gone to college together and hadn't seen each other really since college. They were roommates in college the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And they reconnected, and they that was just such a joy to see that, and it was neat. It was a really good team, and they were very deserving to be in the Hall of Fame, and it was a lot of work to get them there, to get everybody together. But
yeah,
we have a great Hall of Fame committee, and they did the work and got them together, so it was great.
I was up by the field today, and the banners on the left field fence and stuff. That's awesome.
That's our Hall of Fame wall there now. We just got those banners. We used to have signs up, and we just got those banners this year, and it's pretty cool to have that that up there.
Yeah, no, you guys do it right up there for sure. Even with the posters of the current players.
Yeah,
those are great.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot for a few. Feel free to answer or don't answer, but could you would you be able to fill out an all-time lineup at Northmont? Not lineup, but could you put in the field, starting left fielder, center fielder?
Mike means Mike has asked me that several times, and when we're together, and Mike coached with me, and I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that. I know, like, center fielders. My gosh, we've had so many great center fielders. It's great. And we've had shortstops, and I don't think I could say this guy was the best or that guy was the best.
Right.
I tell you, we've had a ton of good ones, though.
Mm-hmm.
I've coached 39 years, and I've been a head coach for 37 years. And I thought about it the other day. I thought, man, that's 3 school generations from K through 12 that I've coached, and it'd really be hard for me to say that, who was the best.
Right.
It'd be really, if I had to pick between Danny Predican and Pat Masters and Blake Beamer. That'd be impossible. You know, I'd like to have all three of them on the same team.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
So, you know, and I'm probably forgetting someone in it just by seeing those guys. But, you know, that'd be really hard.
Well, I figured you'd say that, and that's perfectly fine. So I narrowed it down to 2. You're down 1 in the 7th.
Yeah.
Which 3 batters would you want to be up at the plate? You're like, I got these guys up. We're going to at least tie it up, or if not, win it.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know. A lot of pressure.
There's a lot of them there.
A lot of pressure. Yeah.
I'd tell you what, if I go back to the very early days, I'd want Jason Welch up at the plate. You know, I definitely would want him up there. He was really the first really, really super player I had. You know, I had him and Dilhoff and Miller in the same class. But I'd say Welch would be one of them. You know, Blake Beamer. I mean, geez, you know, Blake Beamer. Yeah. Pat Masters. I mean,
that's 3. You could stop there.
Yeah,
you can stop there.
I mean, that's a pretty good company right there. Oh, Vince Baldessare.
He was all right, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, it's oh my gosh, you know. Yeah. Tom Stoffel. I mean, I could give you a list of 20 guys I want up here. You know.
Yeah, that's a good problem.
Yeah,
that's a good problem. That's pretty much all the baseball have. But I want to end. You're a big music guy. I know you and I have kind of swapped albums and CDs before the Florida trip just to have them on.
I still have Nirvana. I have it on my phone, and I would have never, ever listened to Nirvana if he would have gave me that one that was that MTV Unplugged. I listen to it all the time, you know.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm going to do the old, you're on a deserted island, and there's a record player or something, and you can have 3 albums. Uh-huh. And I'm not talking like pure albums, not a song, but an album.
Yeah.
Could you pick 3 of?
I mean, this is kind of. If I'm on an island, I got to have the best of Jimmy Buffett, I guess.
Sure.
And Hotel California by the Eagles.
Yeah.
Third one. Let's think here. I guess I got to go the best of the Beatles, you know, because I mean it's just. You know, those would be the 3, you know. Yeah.
I was thinking about mine before, and I'm like, I could make 3 different lists where I don't have the Beatles, and they're my favorite band, you know. There's so much. And I think that's, like, even with me, I mean, I love hearing new kinds of music, and with internet and Facebook, I'll see, like, 2 months ago, I know who Marvin Gaye is. Yeah. Never really listened to much Marvin Gaye.
Sure.
And someone put a video on Facebook of him. It was heard through the grapevine, but a cappella. No background music. I'm like, well, this is unbelievable, you know. And I go on YouTube and start pulling up Marvin Gaye and stuff. Yeah. And
do you know who Ken Brew is from Sunday Morning Sports Talk on?
I do not.
On 700. He talks about sports and plays music, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It is so cool. Mm-hmm. You know.
I think. I mean, as long as you are open to a lot of things, man. You hear 2 years ago. No, maybe a year ago, I saw the Amy Winehouse documentary about Amy Winehouse. I don't know if you ever listened to her. And I'm like, oh, now I have to listen to her. And, like, I listen to her all the time now. Sure, and my wife's like, you're obsessed with Amy Winehouse. I'm like, she's great, you know. And I would have never listened to her. I was just a classic rock guy growing up. Yeah. And then other things hit you. And it's, I know you're a big music guy. I'm glad you're still listening to the Nirvana.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would have dreamed that, you know? I mean, I just, tonight at the field, Springfield's coach asked me, he said, man, are you in the Van Halen fan club or what? Right. And I said, because they played a bunch of Van Halen stuff tonight. And I said, you know, I don't handle the music. that's the guys upstairs that handle the music, you know. But our field, you know, I've always been big into, you know, we've got great speakers out there, and we rock and roll out there during the baseball games too. You know, before the game, I have music playing a lot before the game, like when we're doing some, you know, we practice. You know, school gets out at 2:50, and if kids are on the field at 3:15. So, you know, we practice every day from 3:15 to 4:15, probably. You know,
okay.
We get some practice in then, and then you know we take infield at 4:35. You know, if we're at home, and so we got music going a lot when we're out there. You know, and I like music, and I just. You know, I have no musical talent. My kids did, but I didn't. And then my wife is very musical too. But you know, going back to coaching, one thing I wanted to tell you, Nuss, is that you know I've learned so much from so many people, And the thing I've really noticed, like, I don't know if this was just my observation. Like Ray Zawatsky and I are friends, And Ray Zawatsky is one of the greatest basketball coaches to come out of the Dayton area. And when I was a freshman boys coach, we get there for the game. My kid's going to they're going in and changing their clothes, and I'm out there watching Vandalia practice. He walks over and says, "Mind telling me what you're doing?" I said, "Coach, I'm just watching. I want to see how you do things."
Yeah.
And he says, "We play this week." And if you look at, Z, he's a big man,
Okay.
and he's got a presence to him too. And I was like, "Coach, I think you're one of the best coaches I've ever seen. I'm not BSing you here. I think you're one of the best coaches, and I want to see how you do things in practice."
Right.
He looked at me, shook his head. "You can stay."
Yeah, you buttered him up enough.
And then after that, Ray and I have been friends. I don't know. I remember when I won my 500th game, he called me, and he left a 5-minute message on my recorder. This year I went to the baseball clinic, and I'm standing there with Mike Cameron from Muller and Tim Engelke from Centerville.
Okay.
I'm standing there with two guys that have won 700 games. And I didn't even think about, I was going to win 700 games. And I'm just listening to those two talk, And I'm every once in a while, I bring something up or, they ask me a question. But I just have always admired coaches. It started with Ned Boer, and I learned stuff from people all across the board, I had such respect for Ned. Like he was my dad or something. That's how much I respected Ned.
Yeah.
And
that seems to be a common thread with a lot of his players because my dad had Ned induct him into the now Northmont Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and and so and it started with him, and I just, and a lot of times I wouldn't even ask questions. If I go to clinic, I'd just stand there and listen to guys talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I a lot of times I didn't ask them questions. I would just listen to them talk to other people. And clinics, if for a young coach, man, if you can go to clinics, that's the best thing you can do, and get involved in your local association.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Miami Valley Football Coaching Association, and when I was 23 years old, and Mike Snyder talked about passing.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what he was talking about, but I thought it was the greatest thing ever. He was talking about reading DBs and stuff, and we just go out and run these routes, and,
right.
and we threw the ball maybe 8 times a game or something, And I sit there listening to Mike, and I thought, man, this is good stuff,
right.
And then Mike comes to Northmont, with Lance, and, I've been around a lot of good coaches,
Mm-hmm.
Jim Brown and Frank Goldsberry is the most. He was the most influential coach I ever coached with.
Really?
Frank was he was the most unique coach I ever coached with, and I've learned a lot from a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Frank, I'll never forget this. Frank did not run a rebounding drill. He's the best rebounding team we ever had at Northmont. Was the 3 years Frank was there. And he never ran a rebounding drill,
Yeah.
He ran 11 men, and they were on the run, boxing out, And I asked him one time, why do you do that? And he was just all over the kids about not boxing out. But like I said, I've learned a lot from them. I've had really good administration,
Mm-hmm.
I've had a number of ADs and a lot of different styles, And the thing I probably appreciate more from the ADs than anything is guys that just guys and girls who just let you go do your job. And I said to Robin one time, I thanked her for keeping me from coloring within the lines, and because I haven't always I've banged heads with a couple ADs too and principals too, but I always respected them.
Yeah.
I always respected the guys I was working for, and really I should say working with. So it's been a great experience for me, and a great, I've always hoped I taught the kids more than they could learn from a book in school.
Okay.
I've always thought if I can teach them more out here on a baseball field or the football field or whatever we're doing, then I've been successful, But at the same time, man, I've learned a lot from parents. I've learned a lot from kids. Kids have inspired me. And I try to do the same thing for them. I try to inspire them. I don't think you can motivate anybody because motivation comes from within, but I think you sure can inspire people.
Absolutely.
So That's kind of that's kind of my gig.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Good place to leave it on.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me, Coach.
All right, News. Good talking to you, buddy.
Thanks.